Well, let's move into the next segment, and we are welcoming in one of the longtime patrons we've had on patreon.com/mostofpodcast. If you want to support us and you want to be like Ziani, go over to patreon.com and hit up that $10 tier. But we're welcoming on our buddy Ziani. We're going to call him Z throughout the podcast, and we're talking about how does DeAndre Ayton fit with the Suns. Z, you told us you're a longtime Suns fan. You have to go through the gluttony of being a Suns fan. Welcome to the podcast, and we're glad you're on talking about Suns.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here. You guys are awesome.
It's cool to finally get to talk to these people because we had Bill on, we had Jake on consistently. It's so good to finally talk to Z. But let's jump into this because DeAndre Ayton did talk that he's not going to be working out for any other teams after he worked out with the Suns. We heard long before Ryan McDonough even say that they were interested in DeAndre Ayton through the middle of the season. So Z, we always read it as Zani, but Z, looking at the Suns team, how do you think DeAndre Ayton does fit into this offense and this defense and this team?
Like a glove, man. I guess I could kind of start off with like the weaknesses. Everybody, has something to say real quick about his defense, but I hear you guys say it a whole lot. Defense, one of the main parts of it in today's NBA is the switching. And I don't know if you guys got to watch a whole bunch of DeAndre down at U of A. I'm a Wildcat fan as well. But that's something that was really, really impressive that he showed me this year down in Tucson is just his ability to switch on the pick and roll. Like one of the first times they played ASU, that's a big-time rivalry out here, Trey Holder, he tried to isolate him in the pick and roll. Like you could tell that they kept trying to get him one-on-one, and he ended up getting what he asked for. And I mean, he shut him down for like a whole quarter. So I think him defensively, like he's not as instinctive as everybody expects him to be at that size. And of course, when you got like Mo Bamba and Triple J in the league at the same time, showing all these amazing defensive attributes. You're kind of comparing him to DeAndre, but I think that the potential's there for him to be a great defender. And then, I kind of think about Shea out of Kentucky. Mm-hmm. I've seen him get blown by a lot. I've seen him, get broken down a lot, and people who he should have clamped up, like getting by him. And I think people give him the benefit of the doubt with just his body makeup and, his size and athleticism, that they don't give the same to DeAndre. But I think defensively he has the potential, and he will end up being that defensive anchor. And I mean, offensively, it goes without saying. Everybody sees how mobile he is, great hands, something that we lacked here in Phoenix since Amari. At the point guard, the ball handler feeds you the rock in the post, and you fumble it, you miss that split second to beat the defender and get to the rack before they do. But I think his hands is something that people really don't point out when they're talking about his strengths. His hands, he has great hands, man, and that can go a long way. And his touch, his finesse around the rim, and then his athleticism, like one play in particular that sticks out to me, athleticism, like his ball handling and all that, talking about that as well. We're playing Oregon. Mm-hmm. And this is right after the... I
know exactly what play you're talking about.
Exactly. Right after the scandal, all that stuff, mm-hmm. whatever, with the 100,000. And they were killing him, man. And we hate Oregon out here. We hate them. But they were killing him, man, just talking so much mess, chanting 100,000 and all this. And he just got the rock at like half court and then just took it up by himself, like a little Euro step, and just whammed on. I think it was who's the guy they got in the first round? Brown or something like that?
Troy Brown, yeah.
Troy Brown, yeah. And he just whammed all on him. So, I mean, at least I hope it was him.
Ayton's a gifted athlete. It's insane. And I think one thing that you mentioned is we do point out his defense, but I think something, Dave, that we do see, and Z mentioned it, is that he does have the athleticism, and the athleticism is undeniable. And the one thing I do want to look at that is how much do you think we're nitpicking DeAndre Ayton? Because, again, there's no perfect prospects out there. No. So do you think we were just nitpicking his defense? Because I think Z did bring up a great point, is that he might be really good in switches, and especially developing as a player. And we also talked about how much did he really care at Arizona? Because he knew he was going to be an NBA prospect. He knew he was going to be top 5 and probably could have came out straight out of high school. So how much do you think that we kind of nitpick his defense?
Yeah, I think it was probably higher than it needed to be, but to some extent, there was a reason behind it. Yes, athletically, he's there. And Z, you mentioned it, him on switches, he has pretty good feet for a big man. For his size, he's able to move up and down the court faster than anyone would expect. My concern comes down to, like Sean mentioned a little bit, the effort. Was he always engaged in the games? We saw some games where they should, we assume they should have won because talent-wise, yes, they were there. They had more talent on the court than the other team, but at the same time, you're playing team game. I get it. You're not always going to be able to just trump people on talent. For me, my big worry about him is the effort consistently and then, defensive IQ. And I don't want to take this opportunity to take a shot at another player on your team, but Marquise Chris, the biggest knock that I've heard about him is he has the defensive IQ of a brick. So I've not heard anything about DeAndre Ayton's lack of defensive IQ. It's more so about concerns about effort. But is there any concern on that, Z?
Man, please do not mention Marquise Chris with DeAndre Ayton. If that's the case, dude, I'm quitting basketball already. I was one of the biggest, I probably jumped the highest when we got Bender and Chris.
Mm-hmm. I love the move too.
I did too.
I've been thinking about it all week, just to look at that draft real quick and see who we could have gotten.
Oh, don't do it, man! You're punishing yourself.
I'm not that big of a glutton. But to answer your question, yeah, man, that's something that I can agree with is his defensive IQ. Mm-hmm. And really his offensive IQ too. I'll say that as well. It's not high, and the reason being is because he didn't start playing the sport till he was 13, 14 years old. Mm. And coming from the Bahamas, he played soccer, and that's where he accredits his footwork and his, you know what I mean, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, effort though, I can't say that I agree with that. Opportunity, I think, is more of the word that I would use for his the defensive limitations that kind of showed up while he was in at U of A. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say that is just because, and I don't want to sound like a homer, but I mean, forget it, I will.
We've had some homer moments on this podcast. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to be like Ricky, man. No, but Ricky's great. But I think it's just because he played the 4, man, and we had Dusan Risic down there playing the 5, and that's a big dude, and he was clogging up the lane, and so I just think defensively, the best is yet to come, and we'll see it, man. We'll see how dope he could be, and I think he's going to be that. But to answer your question, yeah, I think his defensive IQ is not that high. I wouldn't compare him to, I pray to God that he doesn't turn out to be like Marquise Chris. And, I'm going to stop beating up on him. I just I had so high expectations for him, dude. I just thought he was going to be the next Amari.
Dude, he was an athletic hype beast. There was no reason to not love him coming out of that draft.
And we all have anger towards prospects. I've done it before. But Ricky, you've been quiet, so I want to get you in here. And one thing that Z was mentioning.
What's up, Ricky?
That Z was mentioning it, and Dave mentioned, was the IQ of a player. And at number 1 overall, let's look at the 2 choices that you have. You have DeAndre Ayton and you have Luka Doncic, at least in Dave and I's mind. And Z, we'll get to you because I think you got some thoughts on that matchup. But at least, Ricky, one thing that we do see with Doncic is that he is very skilled and he has a lot of experience playing professional basketball overseas. How much do you think there is a difference between Luka Doncic's IQ, both offensively and defensively, compared to DeAndre Ayton's IQ defensively and offensively?
Well, to be honest, when it comes to the debate with me of Ayton versus Doncic, it has nothing to do with IQ. It has nothing to do with their ability at their position. To me, it's as simple as, all right, you're going to take Ayton at number 1. Are you still in the belief, because there's a lot of people, and I'm on the side of this as well, that I'm going to take the guard, I'm going to take the wing before I take the center, because that's how you win in this NBA. Look at the Warriors. Mm-hmm. They're not winning. I know they got Draymond down there. They don't even have a center. Andrew Bogut, Zaza, they were even throwing Iguodala out there for the Hamptons 5, and Draymond was your center, and Draymond was a second-round pick. So, with the whole Ayton-Doncic thing, that's where I think it comes to is, do you still believe, hey, we can take a center this high and still win? The thing I want to really hit on with Ayton that kind of Z hit a little bit is with me with defense, it's not necessarily the thing of like, oh, he can't play defense. To me, it goes down to the, how do I say this? Not the will to play it, but we saw at Arizona, it wasn't a fact that like he didn't want to play at Arizona, but it was like I got to play in college kind of a thing. Like, what if he didn't want to even play in college because he'd rather have gone straight to the pros? How are we going to see that with the Suns? I mean, yeah, it's a hometown team, so you're expecting that to be so he doesn't lose interest playing, because the Suns, I mean, even when we add him, are we going to say they're a playoff team? Probably not.
Well, I think one thing with that is that I think with Ayton having the validation of being a number one overall pick is going to help him.
The thing I was going to say to combat it, though, in the end, was the thing I really liked from Ayton is when he was asked about like seeing himself in Phoenix, he compared himself and Devin Booker to Shaq and Kobe 2.0. Like, I look at that and I go, don't worry about him not wanting to play in Phoenix. He's going to be fine if you take him number one.
Mm-hmm. And Z, I do want to go to you because you kind of said, oh, God, when I asked about the Luka and DeAndre Ayton thing. And to pull the curtain behind us a little bit, that was going to be the proposed topic, was Luka versus DeAndre Ayton. Who should the Suns go with at number one? So what are your thoughts on Luka, and why do you think Ayton is a better fit? Because it seems like you feel like Ayton's the best fit for the Suns.
I'm with you, Ricky. You know, guards dominate the league today, and I agree. The thing though is guards do, and I don't see Luka as a guard. I heard it said like a couple of weeks ago. I think it was like for Schiller or somebody. I don't remember. But they said your position is defined as what you can guard, and I don't see Luka guarding these uber talented, uber athletic guards in this league. Like, people always harp on how much of a liability DeAndre would be. Like, when I think about having Luka and Devin Booker in the backcourt, it scares me, dude. Like, everybody's going. I could blow by Luka Doncic, and I'm being hyperbolic, of course, but I mean, I don't think his athleticism can hold up. I mean, I was watching him, you know, trying to scout him and stuff with, you know, as much as I could on YouTube. And I just did not see any athleticism. I mean, he can dunk every now and then. He's 6'8". He should be able to jump a couple of feet off the ground and dunk. But, I mean, his lateral movement, his lateral quickness, you know, the agility, like, I just didn't see it, man. And I think that is not – I don't think that's what you want, especially in Phoenix. Like, this is our first number one pick, man. I mean, you know how it is in Phoenix. Everybody, we always get sunned, like you guys say. And God damn it, I'm tired of it. But we finally hit on it. The draft gods, as they say, kind of showed favor on us for the first time in 50 years. And you know, this is something that we can't take lightly, and we got to be super aggressive. And you know, that's why everybody's working out. We just had Trayvon Duval working out yesterday, and a whole bunch of scrubs. So, like, I mean, they're looking at, you know, who they're going to get with the undrafted free agents, and you know, all this stuff. They're going above and beyond, and we need that. But to answer your question again, I just defensively, if you want to say that, I mean, Luka, I just don't see him being successful defensively in the NBA. Period. But I mean, we know how good his vision is. We know. You know, the experience that he has, you know, and, you know, his, I mean, he can pass the ball, he can shoot it, but I don't know, man. I guess it's Milicek and all these other Euros who kind of soured me on drafting overseas.
And it seems like you and Ricky kind of have that as well, because Ricky's very hesitant of European players. And one thing, Z, you're a perfect fit on the podcast because you're already calling people scrubs, which is perfect. We call people scrubs and bums all the time. But yeah. Dave, one thing, we know you're a huge Luka fan, and hearing about the athleticism concerns,
that's all good, man.
Also the defensive concerns. What do you have to combat that? Because you've been talking about Luka ever since, you know, the regular season started, about how he is the best player in the draft. Well, at least, I mean, on the podcast. Because we weren't talking too much about the 2018 NBA draft until the regular season started. So, in your mind, what would you say to non-European viewers, to the people that have just watched, you know, YouTube films and YouTube tape? What do you see in Luka Doncic's athleticism? Are the concerns overhyped, or are they valid?
athleticism can be something that you grow with. Like there is like God-given athleticism where you see guys like DeAndre Ayton. He's 7'1", his muscles are like out of control. Like,
he was probably born with that muscle.
He's a freak of nature at that point. Like it's just impressive. Luka's a guy who honestly has been playing basketball since he was born, but he doesn't look like he's on any sort of diet. He doesn't look like he lifts weights.
He looks like a kid in a D2, basketball program.
Meanwhile, he's 6'8", 230. Like, size-wise, he should be there. So I think the biggest thing for him is dietary and strength training. As soon as he hits America, those are the two biggest things that you're going to get in that first, off-season. Because Frank, when he came over, had never lifted a weight, on any sort of training course, any strength training, non-existent in France. It just wasn't a thing that they had them do. So I'm not overly concerned with it. I know it's a flaw in his game. You'd have to be blind to not see that. But I think it's absolutely something that he can grow with because he hasn't been trained. Look at the development of Jokic, and as he develops, as he gets in better shape and quits eating all these fucking cheeseburgers, the man just ate whatever he wanted to because he could.
Yeah, well, and one thing too is, and Z mentioned this, was with defensive positioning, and you are who you defend.
Yeah.
Do you see Luka as a forward? Do you see him as a 3, or do you think he could possibly, dabble in guarding 2s, dabble in guarding 1s, whether he's on the Suns or any NBA team?
I think he's a 2 through 4. I think he got a high chance being blown by some of the 2s out in the league, but at the same time, his size and his ability to go backpedal wise isn't bad. It's the lateral movement that kills him. So if people have a good crossover move, you should be concerned. But, yes, because of his size, he's 6'8", 230. He can guard 4s and 3s, and I wouldn't be terrified of it. I don't think he's going to be, a plus defender, but I think he'll be passable.
Well, and Z, going back to you, because I do want to kind of clear this up, is because Devin Booker last year showed that he was a pretty good facilitator. I think he had around five assists per game, a little under or maybe a little over. And we saw him at least handle the ball a little bit more and become a facilitator. Is that why you think Ayton is the best fit? Is because you kind of already have a guy that can facilitate the ball a little bit already at the 2 in Devin Booker, and you could even come in and draft a guy at that 16 spot?
No, I mean, Devin Booker did show that he's a pretty decent playmaker, but I think it's just kind of Phoenix, man. If you think about it, we've always had our success has been linked to having somebody in that 4 or 5 spot. Back in the Barkley days when I was born in the early '90s. So when we first had Barkley, he played that four spot, and we had Tom Chambers playing the 3 or the 4, wherever Barkley did it, and we were successful then. And then later in the mid 2000s, we had Amari and Sean Marion at the 4 or 5 spot, and I think just success in Phoenix is tied to us having somebody in that role. And I don't know, man. Maybe it's just nostalgia, or maybe it's me being biased because he went to U of A, and then also he played high school basketball out here. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think that. And then another thing is the NBA, like we've established, is guard heavy now, and it's not too many 7-footers out there that are, balling back in the day. And the ones that are stand out, the Anthony Davises, the Cats, the Joels, you know what I mean? And we have a chance to have one of those guys, and not like them. He can stay on the floor in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? He has that good touch at the free throw line, and I think what's his name, Hassan Whiteside. That's what he doesn't have, and that's why he was off the floor. And Cat, I think the moment just probably got a little too big for him, why he didn't show up the way we expected him to. But I think that's something that while everybody has their Hampton 5s out and everybody has, Draymond Green at the 5 and, 6'6" dudes at the 5. And if we can throw out a 7'1", 260 dude who can jump from the free throw line and, just dominate, it's going to give us an advantage.
Well,
and I just like how. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I want to throw out there too is all these guys were, the Hampton Five, all these guys. These players are going to be older once the Suns are a true threat. I mean, in 3 years, we'll really be looking at Draymond, who's going to be like 31, 32 years old. He's going to be slower. He's going to be older. So Ayton, who's going to be at his athletic peak, going up against Draymond Green, a 6'9" guy who's playing the 5, and then that's going to be even more of a disadvantage. But Ricky, I want to go to you because Z mentioned something. DeAndre Ayton, number 1 overall pick. Played high school ball in Phoenix, played college ball in Arizona. This is a guy that's a homegrown talent. Let's look at your days.
Reminds me of D Rose.
That's exactly what I was going to do.
So when I pointed, because I'm letting them,
that's what I was going to go right to.
I pointed at you while Z was talking because I'm like, I want to say something because it reminds me of the 2018 draft. I know
2008.
2008.
We're in
2018. 2008 draft of I know we weren't picking D Rose or a foreign player, but it was D Rose or Be Easy.
Yeah.
And Be Easy had a really good year that year for the Thundercats down there at Kansas State. But it was one of those things where the Bulls, we had no business being the first pick that year. No business. We were the last team in the lottery, and we get the first pick. We take Derrick Rose, and I feel like that's almost for this, it's like what Z is saying, hey, not only have throughout his entire life he's had someone at the 5 and the 4 that's kind of solidified it down. This is a kid that's played high school ball there. He's played college ball there. And now he has a chance to not only play his pro career in the state that he grew up in, but also you take a little, what's the word I'm looking for? A little pride with it. I can be the one to put this team on the map finally so that we're not a joke and so we're not getting Suns.
I would just say this is not us jinxing you with Derrick Rose injuries because may his career be much better.
He was better before. He was a lot better before the knee injury.
Well, he was an MVP.
Yeah.
But Z, I think you were about to jump in. What do you want to say about it?
Oh, I'm just saying, no knee problem.
Well, anyway, one thing, too, he's not going to be throwing up dunks like D Rose was and attacking with the...
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. You can watch him go from, free throw line in and just with some force.
Okay, but let's remember D Rose's and the way he was always constantly landing awkwardly on his legs.
That man never learned how to land.
Ayton's not going to leave the floor too much. he can put his arms up and dunk.
Tippy toe.
And Z, it's been great getting this insight from Suns. How for sure do you think it is that Ayton's the number 1 pick? Is it 100% in your mind?
It's 100%, dude.
Nice.
Y'all probably don't remember, but I remember the Josh Jackson draft. So last year, you guys had the live draft feed. I was in the comment section back then, and it's a guy out here, one of our radio personalities. His name is John Gambadora. Dude is from New York, and man, he is the plug. I don't know who his sources are, but as far as Arizona sports are concerned, he gets out the message, he gets out the info 20 minutes in advance. How who is it?
Woj.
What's the guy? Woj. Just like Woj. To be honest, if it's something Suns related or Arizona basketball related, Woj probably gets his information from John Gambadora, man. And,
oh my God.
And that's what the conversation out here is what we're going to do with the 16th pick more than who we're going to take number 1. And I would say if I had to give it a percentage, I'd say 99.9, and that 0.1% would be Marvin Bagley, just because he played high school basketball here too. He's from Tempe. And that'll be cool to have him. And, he kind of said something that was scary. He was like, if the Suns don't pick me, they'll regret it. And, he's going to make it a mission to destroy us every chance he gets. But, that's where I think the only doubt would come. Doncic is not even in the conversation anymore. It's weird. It's a whole bunch of podcasts and stuff about the Suns. And all the podcast guys, they all wanted Doncic. They're all disappointed right now because it's a foregone conclusion that we're getting 80. But yeah, man, I think it's out of those two, but way, way, way heavy leaning towards DeAndre.
Well, I just got a question off the cuff for you, Z. I was just thinking about the 16th pick and kind of like what Dave did in our last mock draft. Suns fan, you can go full homerism here.
Oh, is this the trade?
What would you rather do? Do you want them to sit at 16 and take someone, or do you want them to package picks and move up to get somebody?
package it, dude. Something that Ryan McDonough has been saying for the longest is, we've tried to accumulate assets, as he likes to call them, and that's young players and draft picks. And he's gearing up for a big move. With all the hoopla today about Kawhi, I don't want Kawhi. I don't want Kawhi in Phoenix. And I mean, he's a top 5 player in the NBA. But the reason I don't want him is because, that injury kind of scares me. I'm just pessimistic. I'm a Suns fan. It's natural. But I don't know about his injury, first of all. Second of all, his money. We got Devin Booker, and, he's going to command a whole lot of bread coming up soon. And I just want it to be as smooth sailing as possible. I don't want no hiccups. So I don't want to package it to move it for a player. We have this year's our pick. This year we have Miami's pick. Then next year we have ours. Then we have Milwaukee's pick. And then in 2021 we have Miami's pick, and it's unprotected. And I want to package ours next year. To be honest, I don't think we have to put ours in a deal, like to move up. By the way, I kind of want either Trae Young or Michael Porter Jr.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
One of the two. But I think we can get the Magic's 6th pick. I think that they need a lot, man. I think they need a lot going forward. They don't. I think one of you guys said it. They don't really have somebody to build around, unless you want to say Jonathan Isaac. I've been hearing that the John Gambadoro dude way back. He said that he thinks that the Suns are going to try to make a big play at Aaron Gordon, but I think he might leave Orlando. So I think maybe the main piece they got is probably Jonathan Isaac. I don't know who else. Maybe the French kid.
Fournier.
What's his name? Fournier.
Yeah.
But like you always say, Sean, they have 10 starters?
Yeah.
So they could pick one of them as a centerpiece.
They're all 10 starters, and none of them are actually great starters. They're all they're all your 5th option on a good team.
Yeah, man.
But yeah,
I think they need a lot of pieces, and we got those. I think as long as we jump in front of the Bulls, we'll be able to get. I'm sorry.
Don't be doing that to me
right now.
Well, it's okay. We're going to move up to 4,
of,
and we're going to take Mo Bamba, so it's okay.
Oh, you can take him. Just leave us those two. But as long as we move in front of y'all and we get either Michael Porter Jr. or Trae Young, I'm going to be happy. And I don't think we have to give up a whole bunch to do that. I say the 16th this year, the 31st this year, and then that Milwaukee pick next year. And then we could throw in TJ Warren, who's got a $50-some million contract.
Yeah, 4 years, $50 million.
For the next 3 years.
You're attacking me with that one. I love TJ Warren.
I know, and dude, I was one of the main dudes trying to get him to get re-signed. But it depends on who we get. If we get Michael Porter, then I think it makes him that much more expendable. And just with the money that he commands right now.
Yeah.
But I think we could even give up Chris, like just his athleticism alone. I think a lot of these GMs are super prideful, and they like to take on projects and think that they could, turn something into something that wasn't there, that the other guy couldn't do. So I think we could package those 2 first-rounders and then the second-rounder and then one of those players and get something, get up there. So I don't know, man. And to be honest, I'm willing to even throw in our first-round pick next year if we could move into the top 5 or so.
Yeah.
Because I don't really like R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson and all those dudes, like I don't really see how they fit on the Suns, and I'm just being selfish with that. But I think the time's now, man. We got too many young dudes on the team, and we got to take that Warriors approach, which I hate the Warriors, by the way.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I've got a little similarity here. So the Warrior draft plan, they got Steph Curry in 2009, then 2 years later.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead.
So that 2009, the history between the Suns and the Warriors with that draft, right?
A little bit, but remind the listeners too.
So we had an agreement in place, I guess a gentleman's agreement with the Warriors. We're going to send Amari, our first round pick, to the Warriors for for the rights to draft Steph, and then Beerchich or something like that, one of the power forwards out there, and they agreed to it, I guess verbally, and then they reneged at the last moment. So that's the reason why I hate the Warriors.
I mean, they probably couldn't believe the fact that Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn were taken right ahead. Like, oh, no, we'll do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking back, and I don't want to pour salt in the wounds, but it looks like Phoenix at 14, Earl Clark. But the comparison I'm going to make is a good one really quick, is the camera's off on us, and you're looking at our logo. So they get Steph in 09. 2 years later, they get Clay. The year after, they get Draymond. It looks like the Suns kind of following that same mold a little bit. Starting with 2015, you guys get Devin Booker. Then 2 years later, which would have been last year's draft, you get Josh Jackson. This year, you get your big with DeAndre Ayton. And it's the same. That's why, for me, this year could be the big one of that was the first year they made the playoffs with Steph, was his fourth year. Dev Book's fourth year is this year.
And that's something we talked about a little bit earlier in the podcast, is the fact that teams need to be more patient. And I think that's something that at least the Suns are doing, is they're being patient. They're going homegrown talent. And Z, not to bash your team, not to bash your state, but again, Phoenix is in a hot spot for free agents. So I think it's something where, again, going homegrown talent is what you need to do. And Ayton, not only is he homegrown by your drafting him, he's also, again, we talked about it, high school, college, from there. So, again, I think Ayton is going to fit beautifully with your Suns. Z, I want to thank you for joining us. It was great content for me, and we're glad you're a patron. If you want to be a patron, like Z, head over to patreon.com/podcast.
I love how you point at the camera, because I do the same thing.
It's a natural thing. But Z, thank you so much.